It's really important for churches to understand the mindset millennial because these are the givers that are going to be setting the pace of the vision for your church. $30 trillion is being inherited by millennials in the next couple decades.
You said a couple things. First off, inherited, and my thing was, how can I inherit this? Okay. A pastor turned tech leader and a millennial churchgoer explore the intersection of technology, culture, and faith, equipping you with innovative strategies to support you as you live out your calling, lead your churches with confidence, and step into the future together. This is the Give It Up Podcast.
This is the first episode of the Give It Up Podcast.
Can you believe it?
In Overflow Studios.
Yes.
This is crazy. Inaugural episode with my girl Zoe.
That's right.
We call you Overflow.
Amen.
Come on.
Wait, I have to show you. Look behind you. Look at what's happening.
What?
We can change the colors on the screen. Are you kidding me?
It's lit.
It literally
This is
lit.
already going to be an amazing
I know.
pod. This is the first episode. I cannot wait.
It's going to be so hype because we're going places that I haven't heard a lot of people in the church space go.
Okay.
So I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Because we need to talk about what giving is all about now.
Yes.
For millennials and Gen Z.
Yes.
Because I feel, as a millennial, people just discount me and leave me behind. Because we know that, like, the average donor is 64 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, well, do I not count as a person? You know what I'm saying? Like, it feels like...
64, I love 64 years old, but that's definitely not the future.
Yeah, because I tithe consistently, and it's a really great practice in my life.
Yeah.
And whenever people say, like, oh, you know, like, giving's for old people, what are you talking about?
Right.
So...
I like your flex, though. I tithe consistently.
I tithe consistently. I don't mean to
every
brag,
pastor
but...
listening to this right now is like, we need to get Zoe in our church.
But listen, we're going to talk about how you can get millennials to tithe, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think we need to talk about first what is on your heart, and that's the incoming wealth transfer.
Yes.
And I want to make like a left behind joke right here.
Okay.
Don't get left behind.
Don't get
for
left
this
behind.
wealth transfer that's happening.
It's coming.
It is coming.
Were you part of a church that like every Sunday night you would talk about end times preaching? I was part of one of those churches.
Thankfully, no.
Awesome.
But like the Christian bookstores were all like...
Cameron?
Kirk Cameron, baby! An icon. But it was one of those things where my parents didn't propose me watching it because they're like, she'll get too scared.
Okay, hot take. Do you believe we're in the end times?
No.
No, why?
I don't know. I feel like it would feel a lot more pressure cooker level than it does.
Right.
Now, that's me speaking as someone who lives in America. I'm sure there are other parts of the world that absolutely feel that, but what do you think?
Well, I got a follow-up question. If you did believe it was in the end times, would you still tithe?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'd probably give more.
Double down.
Yeah.
Honor God right before it comes.
What do I have to lose?
You wouldn't be like YOLO.
Well, YOLO with giving, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I'd be like, I don't want to leave with anything. This ain't coming to heaven with me.
Hey, that's a good perspective. Do I think it's the end times? I think it's all relative, right?
Yeah.
I think even the concept of time, it's hard to ping. So you could say it is the end times relative to how you think about time.
Yeah.
And the Bible says it is imminent. So in a way, we are. Whether that's in the next 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, I have no idea.
Soon is an interesting thing that Jesus says, because I want to eat soon, you know, but I don't think that's the soon he's talking about.
Right. He's definitely in a different ball game, but what is imminent for sure is the future of giving. I think the future is now. The mindset millennial of how they think about money, the mindset millennial of how they think about finances, and why that's important for churches all across America to understand is because this is the incoming lifeblood of resources for a church. It's really important for churches to understand the mindset millennial because these are the givers that are going to be setting the pace of the vision for your church, setting the pace of the future of your church. And so it's so important to understand. I was talking to a pastor in Miami literally yesterday, and he was talking about how his giving platform doesn't even receive Cash App. But half of his congregation uses Cash App on a daily basis. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about how do we understand the way that money moves with millennials.
Yep.
I think it's really, really important. And one of the biggest kind of trends that we're seeing on a macro level. We talk about it actually in my book, Shameless Promo, High Growth Fundraising, the Silicon Valley Way. We talk about in one of the first few chapters, $30 trillion is on its way, is being inherited by millennials in the next couple decades, already happening now. A few of those $1 trillion have already made their way to millennials. And millennials just think differently about money than boomers, 64-plus-year-olds.
That's for sure. You know, you said a couple things. First off, inherited. And my thing was, how can I inherit this? Okay. Yeah. But I guess that's human relatively.
Yeah.
But secondly, you're talking about the pace.
Yeah.
And can you break that down? Because does that mean the frequency in which we give, the frequency in which we do transactions? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So what I mean by pace is that pastors, if you're a pastor listening to this, you know this, or I hope you know this, you set the vision for the church. Your givers set the pace of the vision that could be executed. And so that's why giving is so important. It is the resource that we need to be able to accomplish the vision that we have for our churches, for our local communities, so that we can reach out to our communities and serve our communities.
Yeah.
You bring up a good point, though, in that millennials also think about giving in a very different way than maybe our parents or grandparents thought about giving. Our grandparents, even my parents, for a season gave literally via check, right?
Yep.
You'd have to remember to bring your checkbook to church. You would have to literally write it out, turn it in. It wasn't even like an instant transaction. It wasn't until the church cashed that out and you would monitor your bank account. That actually wasn't that long ago, just a decade ago. And then something like the internet happened, online commerce happened, e-commerce happened, and all of a sudden people started getting more accustomed to giving online. And then there was a whole mobile transformation. A lot of this, by the way, we are in Overflow Studios here in the midst of the Silicon Valley, where a lot of this innovation started. Started getting comfortable with mobile phones, and people started giving via phone and text to giving. And I remember a day when I was younger where that was like a big deal. It was a really big deal that all of a sudden people were not giving via cash in the buckets. People were not giving via check in the buckets. And all of a sudden people were primarily giving online. COVID really accelerated that.
Sure.
But it was so interesting to see the church be slow to adopt it. And that's kind of what I'm seeing right now with new technologies, is the church is a little bit slow to adopt things, but we should be at the front foot of adopting these things, because it's going to determine the pace in which you can fulfill your vision. And so what millennials are looking for is convenience. If we talk about pace, we can transition to even concepts like speed. We want things instant, right? We want things done quickly.
Yep.
And so that's something that Overflow, the company that we're building together, is super passionate about, is how can we provide ways, tools, education to help church leaders, pastors, people that are running charities, nonprofits, create experiences for the future givers of this world, so that things like inconvenience don't stop them from giving.
Yeah. And it's so important, because you're talking about the church being a little behind technologically in so many advancements, because it's weird to me that the church is behind.
Right.
Because there's certain technologies that the church, especially the non-denom space, is real quick to adopt.
Yeah.
But then there's other things, and it's just confusing to me, because I'm thinking, if you're having the mindset of, well, we could lose something. What?
Right.
What could you lose?
Right. Right.
Just like a turnover that's temporary.
Right.
And I would say a lot of us millennials see life that way. We're like, what could we lose?
Yeah.
And then we just go after it anyways. And I want to challenge, like, as just a churchgoer, I want to challenge churches to have the mindset of, what's the best thing that can happen?
That's good. Yeah, I like that. I really like that concept. I think that why I moved to the Silicon Valley and have stayed here so long now, over a decade, is because there is a bit of a different mindset. It's definitely in the air. It's in the atmosphere. People are not thinking like, what will happen if it fails? They actually flip it. People here think, what would happen if it works?
So important. Yeah.
And I think in another way, if you're playing the game, if you're living life, if you're leading church, if you're leading communities in a way of, okay, trying to minimize what I'm going to lose versus maximizing what we could gain together,
Yeah.
You're going to be really missing out, right? And so what's been really cool is that in the last 2.5 years or so, we've been able to pioneer this new space, which I believe is serving the local church and serving incredible nonprofit organizations into the future of giving.
Yes.
Because an insight that I had just late 2019 was that as this fundamental shift of assets go from boomers to millennials, it's going to be held and it's going to be thought of differently.
Absolutely.
More and more non-cash assets investing is getting democratized. There's never been so much energy with millennials, and they haven't come into full wealth yet, but this transition is happening pretty rapidly, that they think about their money not just in terms of checking and savings, but portfolios.
Yep.
What investments am I going to make? That was a whole proliferation a few years ago of apps like Robinhood and things like that. What ETFs? Make sure to get into 401ks, IRAs. Make sure to maximize those benefits. Also, we live in a generation where the rise of crypto has
For sure.
literally happened before our eyes.
Yes.
We have friends that just diversify assets into other non-traditional things, like maybe collectibles. There's apps like StockX and GOAT right now where people trade on cultural currency.
Yeah.
Literally Jordan shoes, Pokemon, hello, that made a comeback.
Insane.
You know, and there's some bougie millennials out there that are even storing wealth in things like wine. People have been getting super into art and things like that. And so if you imagine somebody's wealth, it is diversified through all these assets, and some of them go down. Bitcoin has seen better days, but you know, some of them go up. And so while certain stocks are going down, certain stocks are going up. It's a portfolio. But as things are going down, things are going up. What's going to happen when you have a capital campaign for your church and you catch somebody at a certain time within their portfolio? What you want to do is you want to expand their imagination of what's possible to give. Maybe right now cash is king for them and they can't move from their savings or checking to give a big gift towards your building campaign, or they can't move to be able to give a big gift to be able to serve your community through cash or writing a check, or even through debit or credit giving because they don't want to go into debt. But they have this non-traditional asset that has been growing over the last few years and might even be really appreciated at that time you do your campaign. Why would you limit them from thinking that they could also give from that pocket? And that's what really Overflow is all about, is we're trying to expand. We're trying to lift the lid of limitation of what people can give. We started the company with stocks. We transitioned into crypto. We do online giving, so ACH debit credit giving, and we continue to expand the ways that people can give. You know, several months ago, we helped facilitate a gift of a vehicle, a used car.
Wow. Yep.
Because post-pandemic, this person didn't need that car anymore, realized that they didn't really have need for it and wanted to give it to their local church. And that was thousands of dollars towards the vision of that church. But that would have never happened if we didn't help that church expand the imagination for their givers of what's possible.
So would you say then that you think the future of giving is not actually cash? Like it could be things as well, like houses, art.
Yeah, I think it's already happening now. 90% of wealth for people that give is held in non-cash assets today.
Crazy.
And so you think about 401ks, mutual funds, IRAs, ETFs, and all the other non-traditional assets I talked about, the way that people across generations, actually, we're talking a lot about millennials because we do believe that's the future of giving. I mean, inherently, it literally is the future of giving. But all generations hold their assets across those non-cash, non-traditional assets, and that represents 90%. And so literally, and we call our company Overflow for that reason. If you want somebody to tap into abundance, if you want somebody to tap on their overflow and not their leftovers, you have to appeal to more ways to give.
Yeah, for sure. And to put this into perspective and give a real life example, let's talk about my friends who went all in on crypto.
Yeah.
And by all in, I mean all of their money.
I know these guys. They're
awesome. In crypto. Yeah. And they have a lot of money in crypto because they got in early.
Yeah.
But if you have all your money in crypto, guess what you can't do normally on a Sunday?
Right.
Give.
That's true.
And so because they
utilized... So there's no crypto ATM machines at your church?
No.
Okay.
Not
you guys
yet.
are behind the ball.
I know, exactly. But because there is software like Overflow, and it ended up partnering with our church, guess what they were able to do?
Yeah.
Give a huge sum of money in the form of crypto to the church.
So good.
And it's just thinking outside the box on it and making it accessible for people.
Yeah, we talked about crypto not having the best day, but it's having a better day than 2012.
Oh, for sure.
Right? When people really started getting into it, they were getting into it on cents of the dollar. Like Bitcoin used to literally be cents. I saw a billboard in the Silicon Valley back in like 2012, 2013, and I thought it was the stupidest thing. And when I looked at it, you could buy it for like literally cents. And today, as we're recording, it's marked at about $20,000 per Bitcoin. It's not having its best day because its best day maybe, a year and a half ago was at 50,000, 60,000, but it's still up from cents and dollars up to 20,000. And so when you're talking about your friend getting in early, that's what we're talking about. There are so many people that are our peers that got into cryptocurrency early and are still sitting on appreciated gains. They're looking for a reason to be generous with it.
Yeah. So did you read this study and this article about how millennials consider themselves philanthropists?
Okay, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and I find that's not something I would necessarily consider myself.
Sure.
But it is to the tune of almost 70% of millennials consider themselves philanthropists.
Wow.
So even the term philanthropy is changing.
Yeah.
You don't need to be Bill Gates to be a philanthropist anymore.
Yeah.
It's like we're looking for opportunities for, hey, how can we give to something that's important?
Yeah.
Because that's actually how we vet things as millennials.
That's good.
We're like, is it important? Oh, also, can I trust them?
Yeah.
What are they going to do with it?
That's good.
So it's a whole process we go through, not just out of feeling the need to or feeling like it's a mandate as much as, no, like we want to make sure this thing is really for us so that we can in turn be for it.
Love it. Yeah, I think that's interesting. And it's interesting to hear that you don't personally identify with the term philanthropist.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe the term that media will give it, and then maybe we'll just opt into the media term for it. I do think it goes a little bit deeper, that's why, is because really millennials, I would even say Gen Z, as I'm getting to learn the dynamics of Gen Z, have this appetite to be generous. There is this appetite to live for something beyond yourself. There is this appetite to give it up, right? There is this appetite to not be so insular. That's why we have adopted things like social media at such crazy rates. Is we're longing for community, we're longing for connection, we're longing. That's why we can rally. We can rally like that as millennials, as Gen Z. We can create groups and communities and mafias and, like the Gen Z mafia. I met one of the leaders of that movement not too long ago. And it's just so interesting because there is this inherent need to, okay, I don't want to just live the white picket fence, 2-story cookie cutter, like that used to be the dream. That is not the dream for most of my friends.
Nope.
Most of my friends actually value things like experiences over the white picket fence. They value connection over the white picket fence. They value dining and dinner parties more than the white picket fence. And I'll venture to say they are longing for communities like the church. They are longing for communities like nonprofit organizations to gather them so that they could give themselves to the organization and live a life of purpose and meaning. It's a lot more than money, but money, what a great vehicle to be able to
For
give
sure.
meaning to a life.
Yeah, such an incredible tool.
Yeah.
Money is when used correctly.
Exactly.
So we're talking a ton about millennials, but let's dip into Gen Z, because I feel like there's this crisis where millennials don't understand Gen Z. They just know, hey, they're different than us.
I'm getting to learn. I don't fully understand.
Let alone baby boomers not understanding Gen Z.
Yeah.
You obviously know a lot by being in this space.
Yeah.
Tell us about Gen Z. What should the church know about Gen Z?
Yeah, I don't know a lot. What I do know is that cryptocurrency is not stopping.
Mm-hmm.
What I do know is that the idea of Web3, the idea of communities rallying online, that was a whole phenomenon with NFTs that have had, big hype cycles and not all those communities have fully made it. But this idea of Twitch, this idea of TikTok, these are some of the technology platforms that are simply just capturing the energy of how Gen Z consumes things, right? And so if I were to characterize Gen Z, I'm still learning more and more, but I would characterize, if millennials lived half of their life analog and then the next half of their life digital, Gen Z lived their full life digital. They are more digital natives than even millennials are, which means I love convenience. I want things to be a click of the button. If I'm going to give stock, if I'm going to give crypto, if I'm going to engage in a community, I want that QR code. I want that, fast loading website. I want those easy instructions. I want my account to be able to enter my number and get the one-time code.
Exactly.
Apple makes it nice to just click a button because I see that code pre-populate. If I want that, all of that as a millennial, 10x for Gen Zs, right? Yeah. 10x for the level of ease, convenience. I would say the standard that they have, right? We're talking a lot about different asset classes. Let's talk about user experience.
Yes.
I've been on a lot of horrible church websites. Can I just say, I've been on a lot of websites that are definitely not making it easy for somebody to even figure out, okay, where to give, how to give, can I trust? I mean, the presentation of your website actually kind of breeds trust as well. Like you would be shocked at how superficial we are.
Oh,
you would be shocked. Like you're gonna be the best church in the world, and your website like loads slow and is poorly configured and doesn't look like Airbnb. You're cut.
Yeah.
So
you cannot be trusted.
This is just like, these are investments that churches should think about making.
Yeah.
Relooking the way that your website is presented, relooking at the way that your give page is constructed. Are things easy to find? Are you explaining things? Are things as easy of a click of a button, right? People buy things on Amazon. They watch things on Netflix. They order cars through Uber and Lyft. They order their food through DoorDash. I'm hungry right now. We should probably get some DoorDash. And I need coffee. I need caffeine. And, we're probably going to do that through DoorDash, Postmates, Uber Eats right after this. This is what we're doing. And I'm stating the obvious, but when I put it into this context, I think it empowers pastors, leaders, people that are in the charitable giving space to totally rethink how they deploy resources, right? Totally rethink how they need to transform their organizations. If you don't have a tech person, if you don't have software engineer, I would actually even say, if you don't have somebody that is not fluent in building websites and building apps and building technology within your church, organizationally, it's probably something that you can rethink.
Dang. That probably scared a lot of people. A software engineer in a church.
Right.
Why?
I mean, we have some of the most influential companies between here in the Silicon Valley, we're in the heart of it, in Mountain View, California, up to San Francisco, Google, Facebook, Apple, all the way up to San Francisco, Uber, Twitter, etc. Right? You go between that, there's Meta, Facebook, over in the peninsula. Those companies reach billions of people, and guess who's it's run by? Designers and software engineers. That's who these companies are run by.
Fair point.
We have the greatest mission in the local church to go into all the world and make disciples, to share with people and present to people the good news of Jesus, which, if I'm talking to ambitious pastors, if I'm talking to pastors that want to see their church grow, because really growth is just the indication of health. If I'm talking to those type of people, why would you not have a vision to serve thousands, if not hundreds of thousands? If what scales the Silicon Valley is engineering, is technologists, is designers, why would we not try to learn from that and hire those type of people within our organizations as well?
Okay, I'm sold. I think that was a great response.
Oh, you're going to learn software engineering?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm moving into that now. Yes. So another interesting point I want to bring up here that I feel like a lot of the older generations are confused about is that we don't see security the same way as you at all.
Yeah.
Here's what I mean.
Interesting.
We actually trust apps more than we trust people.
Right.
Because people can burn us.
Yeah.
Software's not as much.
Yeah.
And I think this is an interesting mind swap because you have the older generation who they love those offering buckets.
Yeah.
They love writing the checks because it goes, in their minds, from their hands to somebody else's hand who cashes it and it's done. Or is that what happens?
Yeah, it's so funny, right? We hear from pastors, we hear from even some givers sometimes, this distrust in giving online, especially non-cash assets, because it's a new phenomenon. We've pioneered really a new industry in this space to be able to connect to your brokerage account online, your Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade, Fidelity account, to select a stock, an ETF, a mutual fund, an IRA, to be able to give to your church. That process being all facilitated online, even though to me it's magical. Our team has done a really great job of creating a really elegant, beautiful experience to do this. There is this hesitation with some people, and even with some people hesitating to even offer Overflow to their congregation because this idea of security.
Yeah.
But you're telling me that passing a bucket in church and asking people to write on an envelope their credit card information with everything, the CSV, the zip code, the address,
take it all.
Like so much PII on that envelope, that so much personally identifiable information on that envelope. And we are going to put it in the bucket and we're going to pass it to somebody I'm sitting with that I don't know. They're a new guest. And the church is supposed to be not even for polished people, but for broken people. So I'm passing it to a potentially very broken person.
Yes.
And I'm saying that feels secure.
Right.
I just think that's so funny. I think it's funny to think about these concepts really when you talk about things like security, when you talk about things like not feeling comfortable. It really comes out of place of unfamiliarity.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, in the church space, a lot of things that we do that are weird to new guests are literally because it's just unfamiliar. To go into a space where everybody is clapping in unison with a big karaoke screen in the sky, and this is not like an Asian bar.
Right.
Is very strange for a new guest to come into. If I flipped it, I do see the reactions of some people that think what we're doing, what we're pioneering, what we're educating on can be very strange. Not because it's actually strange, but it's just because it's unfamiliar.
Yeah, for sure. But all of that to say, we fully believe fundamentally that the future of giving is giving as many options as possible.
That's it. Yeah, you increase the amount of options, you optimize the opportunity. I am really excited about the future that we're building, the world that we're creating with our incredible team and with our incredible early adopting partners, churches, charities, nonprofits that are transforming their giving experiences, transforming their giving pages and providing so many different ways to give. And we are starting to see, and we are seeing at scale now, an incredible movement towards receiving more different resources, which is going to ultimately resource the missions and visions of these important organizations.
That's right. It's so crazy. So let's say that there is a church leader who's listening to this.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, shoot, this makes sense. What is like one thing that they could do to start thinking differently for how they can reach millennials and Gen Z when it comes to giving options for them?
Yeah. The number one thing I would say is go to your give page right now and assess for yourself. Did I make it easy for people to give more than just ACH debit credit? And if that is not the case, hit us up.
Hey!
Overflow.co. We would love to serve you. And we cannot wait. This was an awesome episode. I'm excited.
I'm pumped.
For the content that we're going to be providing through this podcast so that we can continue to talk about faith, finances, money, generosity within the church space, outside of the church space, but ultimately for people that are changing the world.
Come on.